Hello, everybody. It's Ken Davenport. Welcome back to the Producer's Perspective Live. It's me, same time, same place, same background. How's everybody tonight? Everybody good? Everybody sheltering in place? Everybody having fun wherever they are? What have you been up to today? We know it's Wednesday, right? It is Wednesday. If you tune in for nothing else, tune in knowing that I will always tell you what day of the week it is. It's reason to tune in these days. It's a very challenging thing to figure out. I literally was leaving my building to walk the dog, only to walk the dog, and heard someone in the lobby going like, "Someone know what time it is? What day it is?" It's crazy. That's what we're here for. The Producer's Perspective Live, always telling you what day it is. Is it Tuesday? Oh, I got it wrong. It's Tuesday. No, wait. I don't know. It's Wednesday. Someone tell me now, please. Anyway, it's Tuesday. Damn it. Can we stop and go back and do take number 2, Mary? Because that was like the worst whole, I'm going to tell you what day it is and I get it wrong. It's going to be one of those nights, everybody. One of those nights. Welcome back. It is Tuesday here at the Perspective Live. We have an incredible guest for you tonight, Kathleen Marshall, director, choreographer, Tony Award winner, director Kathleen, and choreographer Kathleen Marshall, Anything Goes, Pajama Game. I have a very interesting question for her, so stay tuned for her. So this is what's fascinating me today. There is so much streaming out there, right? So much streaming, and I should have known this was going to happen. So right when the Broadway shut down, oh, hello, everybody. Hello. Everyone's there are all sorts of greetings today. Hi, Helene. Hi, Mary Alice. Hi, Michael. Hi, you're like my daughter. She says hi to everyone. In fact, we're doing this thing. We're trying to teach her Spanish. We're trying to teach her a little Spanish. So my wife said, how do you say hello in Spanish? You know what my kid said? Wave. Smart ass. Gets it from me. Anyway, what I've been obsessed with right now is there's so much streaming. And as I said, I should have known this because when the shutdown happened, I got all sorts of emails from all sorts of people saying, what are you going to stream? What are you going to stream? You should stream. We should stream. How do we do this? And whenever I hear things like that, I know that if I hear the same idea 3 times, this is my rule, same idea 3 times, then I know it's a good one. This, by the way, for you, those of you writers out there or composers or performers, if you get the same note 3 times from 3 different people, I take it. As a producer, I know I do that as well. So anyway, I knew there was going to be tons of streaming. It's amazing. Anyone else streaming anything in the theater world interesting? Anyone interesting? Gold Star Events is doing, they're offering tickets to these live streaming events. By the way, RuPaul, you should check them out. Gold Star, I had a great conversation with their CEO, Jim McCarthy, today. They're doing some cool stuff. Lots of stuff. I did a blog about it. Anyone else streaming cool stuff? Here's the good news about streaming, if you've been following this story. Disney on Broadway was partnering with Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS to stream this 25th anniversary concert they were doing, celebrating 25 magical years of Disney. They recorded it last year. They were going to stream it, and then it got shut down. It got shut down by the musicians union. They were like, absolutely not. You can't do it. And then you know what happened? The musicians, God love them, they stood up and said, no, we appreciate it. And I understand the difficulty that leadership is in right now. It was the union leadership that said, no, we can't do this. Our people have to get paid. And what was great is that the members said, no, we don't. We were all in this together. The leadership listened. It's great. It's how the system is supposed to work. The people spoke. Disney on Broadway will be streaming as a benefit for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, I believe on Friday. I got that date right, on Friday, 17th. Right? Yes. So watch that if you'd like. If it conflicts with us, you can always catch us on replay. Speaking of Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, great organization. Also another great organization, the Actors Fund. Don't forget to hit that tip jar, throw a little something in. It's one of the reasons all these guests join. So we'll get some really cool people the more money you give. That's simple. It's like a premium ticket. What else? Don't forget, stay safe, stay healthy, stay home, unless you are going to walk your dog. Oh, look, some folks are finally chiming in. Oh, someone's from Brimfield. It's a neighboring town to where I grew up. National Theater, people are streaming. Stars in the House, of course, Seth Rudetsky doing a terrific job over there. I love it. So don't forget to stay safe, stay healthy, stay home. Don't forget Thursday night is going to be my streaming fest, because at 6 o'clock I'm doing a webinar, how theater makers can make the most of this quarantine. I've been doing it today. It's like a fancy PowerPoint and everything that a friend of mine is designing. It's going to be all this stuff that I've learned about how to make the most of this time together, even though we're apart. So tune in for that. Link in the comments, go register there. It should be a good time. Okay, everybody good? All of us here? All right, let's bring on today's guest. Please welcome the acclaimed and award-winning, Tony Award-winning director, choreographer, Ms. Kathleen Marshall. Welcome, Kathleen.
Hi.
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 How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Ken. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Where are you zooming in from?
I am in Montclair, New Jersey, and my husband and our two twins, who are 9 years old, Ella and Nathaniel, we moved out to Montclair last July from the Upper West Side. So so we feel very grateful that we've got at least a little space around us and a yard that our kids and our dog can run around in, and sort of like living in a small town right now, you know, where we sort of take walks around our neighborhood and wave at a distance to our neighbors and
avoid them. It's like bumper cars. You're trying to avoid them all the
Yeah.
time. Tell me about, so I've been asking a lot of parents recently about what they've been telling their kids about this time and how to deal with that. What have you been telling yours?
Yeah, you know, they're 9, they're in 4th grade, and they, you know, they understand what's happening. The hard thing, of course, is that none of us, for all of us, we don't know how long this is going to go on for, you know. So so we're sort of trying to keep it as positive as possible. They know that we're safe, that all of our, so far, knock on my wood table here, all our family and friends seem to be all right, and some friends who've been diagnosed with it are recovering or on the road to recovery. So they understand that we can't go visit my parents right now, you know, and we usually spend Easter with my parents, and they understand that we couldn't do that this year. And you know, we try to say, look, this is unprecedented. This is nothing like this has ever occurred in our lifetime, and you know, hopefully never will again. But that it's unique, and just trying to stay positive.
Did you have anything that was stopped? Were you in the midst of something? So tell us what you were doing when it happened.
We had just opened a revised version of The Unsinkable Molly Brown with the Transport Group off Broadway. And we opened, we started previews at the beginning of February. We opened on February 26th. And we shut down the same day that Broadway shut down. So March 11th was our final performance, although we didn't know that at the time, right? It all happened on Thursday, March 12th, when everything was back and forth and everything shut down. And even though we were off Broadway, and at that point it was but I think what Governor Cuomo said is gatherings of 500 people or more. And we were below that, but we still felt the responsible thing was to shut down. And actually last Saturday would have been our final performance. And so we had a sort of Zoom meeting with our entire cast, stage management and producers, and sort of did a final sort of virtual toast for our show. We were scheduled. The good news is we honestly, just in this climate, we're just so grateful that we got to open. You know, so many shows that were in rehearsal or about to start rehearsal or in previews, and who knows what's going to happen when things are up and running again. So we're very grateful that we got to open, and we are going to do a cast album. We were scheduled scheduled to do it on March 23rd, and of course that got postponed. But we're going to do. We actually can't wait till we can all be back in a room together and make a cast album.
And what about you? I'm sure you have other projects that were in development, planned for the future. How do you, as the director, who's really a captain of the ship for a lot of this stuff, how do you keep these things going now? What have you been up to during the downtime?
Yeah, I mean, I had a 2-week reading that was scheduled just to happen in March, and another one that was scheduled to happen in April, that we were cast and, you know, raring to go. So those things will happen. We just don't know when. But you know, it's like everything in theater, everything, it's such a progressive sort of meal in a way, right? You've got to do a reading or a workshop in order to sort of find a home to maybe do a regional production, and then hopefully go beyond that. So everything's pushed back because these readings, you know, for both of these projects, we were going to be inviting a lot of people to hopefully then figure out when our first production was going to be, which would hopefully have been in the next year. But now, of course, that's delayed, so we don't know where we are. So what I am doing is development. There are a couple other projects that are in the works that we're sort of working with writers on scripts and sort of trying to get things in place so that when we are up and running, we can just, you know, go out of the gate with these readings and things we're scheduled to do.
Let me ask you a question. Asking for a friend who may have a reading in June himself. So what if? So say they say you can get together, you can gather 30, 40 people in a room, but no more than that, which really means you can't have much of an audience, but you could do your reading, right? You could have the cast, you could have producers like your selector, but you couldn't invite it. Do you think it's worth it to do, or do you really want to wait until you have 100 people to get that audience opinion?
You know, it's interesting because both of these readings that I were going to do, these were second readings. We'd already done first readings, and first readings are usually often very private. And actually, there's a couple other projects are heading towards a first reading. So that's something you could do with 30 people in a room because you actually want to keep it private. But, you know, I think in a way, I'd prefer to wait. But given where things are and our sort of new normal, of course, you know, with what we're doing with live theater, especially with musicals, you know, we know there's nothing like actually being in the room and hearing live music and live singers. There's just nothing like that sort of visceral excitement. But you know what, if it turns out that that we still can't gather in large groups for a longer period of time than we all are hoping for, then maybe we do need to sort of, you know, get the actors and musicians in a room and then Zoom everybody else in or do some kind of virtual reading. And, you know, quite honestly, when you're trying to develop a new musical and you want regional theaters all over the country to see your reading, to see if they might possibly give you a home, maybe that's a good thing because maybe more theaters can see your reading, but you have to hope that they can make the leap, that it's just not the same live as it is, you know, watching it recorded. But you know, maybe that's, you know, in a way, maybe this whole crazy time we're living through will give us more options of how to get our work out there.
So just so everyone knows, that was a genius thought there. And this is exactly why I do this and exactly why I wanted Kathleen Marshall on this thing, because that is such a positive way to look at this horrible situation. And literally in my mind, I'm going like, of course. Yes, we're going to need people to jump and leap and use their imagination in a way never before. But frankly, if we could all of a sudden have 1,000 people see that reading instead of 100 people, you got to think that just the numbers game could help the show find a home even more so than the regular reading.
Right. And of course we all need, you know, financial backing, and we need, you know, so in a way it's like, oh, who's in New York on this Friday afternoon at 3:00 to see our reading? Right? As opposed to, oh no, we're going to stream this live to anybody who wants to see it, who can, you know, maybe help with the progress of the show.
Yeah, and I'm finding that the unions, I think, well, even this 802 that we just talked about, they're going to be more open to this kind of thing because everyone needs jobs. The more shows that we can find to get off the ground right now, the better.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, I mean, you're one of those director choreographer types. So you're doing both. And I'm always obsessed with how choreographers create, partly because I can't dance at all. So is this something you do before you get, like, will you design a dance? Will you know all the steps before you get in a room? Like, could you do that now in your house? Like, oh, I've got a number coming up for this show. I'm just going to work it all out in my basement.
Well, you know, to me, for direction and for choreography and creating a musical, to me, it's like a spiral. It's that you go around and around and around, and you eventually work your way to the center. And the way you go around and around is that you sort of, you digest the material, you read the material, whatever the score is, you sort of have some general ideas. You maybe have some general ideas about how it's going to look, how it's going to move. And then you sort of eventually sort of zero in on the specifics, right? On the specific blocking, on the specific staging, on the specific choreography. And so, for me, it's the choreography has come first and foremost from the characters and from the story. And that the choreography always has to be sort of character and story driven or emotionally driven. And sometimes that means actual plot, but sometimes it just means expressing an emotion, whether it's sort of joy or exuberance or community. So it's expressing something in that way. And I find when a lot of times I sort of come up with, I start with coming up with some vocabulary ideas. What's the kind of vocabulary that this, depending, especially if maybe it's a period piece, or it takes place in a specific time and place. What is the vocabulary that we could use? And I sort of jot a bunch of ideas down for that. And then really, if I find I'm having trouble coming up with specific steps, it's because I realize I've lost track of why they're dancing. And if the vocabulary, if the actual steps aren't coming, and there are times when you're a choreographer, when you just want to go to the window and throw it open and say, "Somebody give me a step! Somebody give me a step! I don't have any more steps in me. Somebody give me a step." And I find if I get to that point, it's because I've sort of lost track of what the story is of the dance, or what the meaning is behind the dance.
So you're from a big showbiz family, and your husband is a very successful producer. I'm curious about your kids now. They're 9 years old. Are they in dance class? Are you teaching them? Are they like, we want to do what mommy and daddy does?
They're both incredibly musical. And we sort of, my husband and I, Scott and I, look at each other all the time because they hear melodies and they could just repeat them. I mean, they were just, they were just, my husband and my daughter were just playing a game, and she was like, kind of humming the 1812 overture a little bit while she was playing the game. So they're both very musical. She's doing a little School of Rock vocal class she likes, because she sing, Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish and stuff like that. And they've done some little piano lessons and things like that, and some little, she did a ballet class at Ballet Hispanico, and one year she loved the teacher, and the next year she didn't, because at that age, it's all about the instructor, right? They like the instructor, they like the teacher, then they like the class. So Nathaniel, our son, is completely, he doesn't want to do music or theater or dance. He's completely into sports, and he's incredibly athletic. He doesn't know how really coordinated he is, because he can floss like nobody, and and he's very, very coordinated. So they're coordinated and athletic and musical, and they're just trying to figure out how they're going to use that. Ella was just in elementary school production of Annie at her school. She was sort of in the ensemble and one of the several stars to be. So she enjoyed that, but she's kind of shy. She didn't want to audition for a big part.
So when you're a parent of a kid, they're often times like, "Oh, will you coach softball? Will you run?" Are they like dying to get you to direct and choreograph the Annie? Like, are they like, please?
The school we're in here is the public school in Montclair, New Jersey, has a really wonderful arts program, and it's like, you wouldn't believe the production values for this production of Annie that they did. Although I'll tell you a good story about it. So they did 2 performances, one on March 11th in the school for all the other students, and then March 12th in the evening was to be their one public performance for all the parents and friends and relatives. Well, we got the word that they were going to live stream that Thursday performance because they weren't going to allow anybody into the school that hadn't already been in the school, the school children and the staff and all of that. So, okay, so that was sort of disappointing that we couldn't be there in person. But again, we could send that live stream out to grandparents and friends and relatives who aren't here. Well, that morning, we got another email saying that they had contacted MTI, Music Theater International, which they had gotten the rights from, saying that MTI didn't have the live stream rights, and so they couldn't live stream the show. So I came home and I said to Scott, "Who do we know at MTI?" We called MTI. We explained the situation to them, and they totally understood and were sympathetic about it, where they were wonderful. Then we called the school and said, "We've talked to MTI. Well, you can go ahead and do this." And we said, and then we said, "Look, if whoever actually has the film rights or the streaming rights to Annie, if they make a fuss about, because an elementary school live streamed their one single performance because the parents weren't allowed in the building to see the one performance for the kids," we said, "We'll, believe us, we will take that on. We would love to take that on." So anyway, the live stream happened. It all happened. It was great.
I love stories like that, and good for you for and good for MTI for, frankly, again, this situation, just like 802, knowing the right thing to do at the right time. Yeah. You've made quite a name for yourself of doing these classic, joyous American musicals, Anything Goes, Pajama Game. I'm thinking that we're going to want some more of this stuff after this is over. What do you think the audience's appetite is going to be when this is all said and done?
Well, first of all, I think we're all going to be dying to sort of gather together and experience things together, whether it's at a restaurant or a movie or a theater, for sure. And I think for sure we're gonna want some joy. When you think of after 9/11, some of the sort of musicals that were that season that were sort of just joyful or transporting or fun, we're gonna want some fun. And I think that it's funny because a couple of projects that I'm doing are there's some that are sort of a little more emotional and dramatic, but also about family. So that will be interesting to see how that comes across. But I think we're going to want some joy and some release and some and something to transport us.
So what do you look for when you choose a project? I mean, I'm sure you have projects coming at you from all different ways. What made you choose that family drama? What made you choose the comedy?
Well, it's a combination. I mean, I really think for me, it's first of all the story and the characters, because as you know, Ken, when you get involved in a project, it's going to be a part of your life for a long time, and for years and years, perhaps, before it actually sort of comes to fruition. So, a story and characters that I want to spend time with, that I like, and a story that I want to hear told. And certainly for me, the music, whether it's existing music or whether it's original music, music that you sort of want to be around, because you're going to be hearing those songs over and over and over and over again. So hopefully there's something that you connect to in some way. And a lot of times with the show, I sort of feel like if there's something in the show, whether it's a moment or two or a song or a scene, and I sort of feel like I can't wait till I'm in the back of the house watching an audience experience this. It's like when you have a great present for somebody and you can't wait for them to open it because their reaction's gonna, they're gonna be excited. It's like, oh, I can't wait for an audience to sort of hear this song or see this scene or experience this story.
That comment that flashed up there in the scene on the screen, I don't know if you saw that. That was someone saying about you call it, that's a musical mama about Annie. I love it. If you have any questions for Kathleen, throw them up there in the comments. The one I just asked was based on someone looking for a direct, like, would you direct a new musical by an unknown? That was Barbara Wells, that was why I was asking, what do you look for, right? It doesn't matter who writes it or who comes up with it, as long as it hits you in the gut.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, wanting to, if this is something that you connect with.
Got it. Someone asked about, we were talking about readings, and Clay Hawley asked, she just commented, readings are everything, get feedback surveys, which just made me think about how you as a director, choreographer, process all of the feedback you get. Like, let's just talk about previews. So you're in previews, you're director, choreographer, you're working, let's say, I want to go back a little, nice work if you can get it. Okay, so you've got stars as well, right? You've got stars in this show. And you're listening to the audience. How do you decide what's working, what's not working, and then how do you get the changes in quickly?
You know, I mean, Nice Work was really a fun show, but we didn't have an out of town, right? We had done several readings, but we didn't have an out of town. We opened, you know, it for previews in New York, and we'd done a lot of readings up till then to sort of get it in as best shape we could. But one thing, of course, is that we knew that the music, you know, the songs weren't going to change, right? George and Ira Gershwin weren't going to be coming in saying, "Here's a new song for Act 2." So, so really what we, you know, the most important thing, of course, the most important element you add in a show is the last element, which is the audience. And with a sort of musical comedy like that, you sort of want to make sure that you're always ahead of them. And so a lot of times what we did in previews, for mostly what we did in Nice Work was make trims. And Joe DiPietro, who wrote the book, who's brilliant. I love working with him. And he's a fearless editor of his own work. And he would come in and together we were cuts, and he would suggest cuts, and I like, well, but that got a laugh last night. He's like, yeah, but there was a bigger laugh right after it. So let's get to the bigger laugh, and not, you know, and not sort of be laugh whores in that way and take every single laugh. It's like, let's get to the ones that are really gold, and let's push the silver and bronze ones aside a little bit. And we made trims in songs as well, cutting verses out of songs or trimming things down, trimming dances. And one thing that I try to do, it's something that Graziella Daniels did, and she and my brother assisted her, and I assisted my brother. So it's sort of passed down that, you know, if you're going to make a cut, make several cuts at once. Don't just take away one thing at a time from one person, because it'll feel like a punishment, right? So a lot of times what we do is sort of come up with a handful of cuts that we're going to do. And also what I would try to do is, this is my own thing that I would do, is I would give it to people like the night before. So we are in previews, like when the preview finishes, you know, as they go home, here's the list of things we're going to work on tomorrow. In terms of, and we're gonna cut this, we're gonna change that. Here's some new pages. So first of all, they can absorb it overnight. They can go home. They can be mad at me for cutting something. They can mourn the thing they're gonna lose, and then they can come in the next day ready to sort of get to work and make the changes in the show.
That is one of the simplest and smartest techniques to control that actor ego issue I've heard. I love it. Let's throw up another one. Ali asks advice for aspiring choreographers and practically how best to connect to get in the rehearsal room as an assistant. She's probably asking for a friend as well.
You know, SDC, which is the Stage Directors and Choreographers Society, which is our union, has a foundation, the SDC Foundation.
Uh-oh. Kathleen is frozen. She's frozen. Is she coming back? Oh, no. Oh, no. Mary, we've lost one. It's the first one. We've lost one. I'm literally sitting here just waiting.
I'm going to bring her back. I'm just trying to see what she's doing.
Okay, we're trying to bring her back. Mary, are you live now too? I don't know what's happening. Are we both
Yes, I'm live. We're live.
Okay, Mary's live with us. Mary, finish that question. How do you, any advice for an aspiring choreography, Mary Dina?
Oh God, I have no idea.
We're trying to get Kathleen back, everybody.
Oop, hold on 1 second.
Frozen, don't let it go, says Jay Sappington. That is very funny. Oh, Wayne, Ken, what did you do? I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. Okay, we're gonna tread some live stream water here for a moment. How long will we let this go on? Any questions for me while I'm here? Historical musicals, do I like them? I love a historical musical. In fact, let me tell you this. Here's my new feeling about the next type of source material that's going to be adapted. Documentaries. Look at documentaries, everybody. That's next. Novels, movies, music, like documentaries. Yes, Tiger King the musical. Andrew Lippa, look out. How's McKenna? She's amazing. The secret has been kept here. Oh no. Do some jokes, Noel Turner. Is that a crack that I can't do a joke? My favorite play of all time? Do you mean play or musical? I think West Side Story is the best musical ever written because it combines dance, sung music, and spoken word text better than anything. I'm not sure if I'd want to see it every day though, but I love it. But that's the best one. Wayne, yeah, of course I like dance musicals. It's like rapid fire question. I don't know what to do. I think we've lost her. So I think we're going to do exactly what Joanne Dean said. Oh wait, she's coming back on. She's coming. I see her in the distance. Mary just chatted me privately in our private chat. Riff a bit. No, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna do some work. I got some work to do. So you just sit there. I don't know how to riff. I don't know what this is. She will come back on. She's coming back on. We got her on the phone. What else do we want to talk about? How else was everybody's Tuesday? What is an example of a documentary musical, Wayne asked? Spelling Bee, based on the documentary, somewhat based, not really, but Spellbound, something like that. Watch documentaries. We all got time to watch documentaries. Here's a great challenge for you. Watch a documentary on Netflix, write a musical or write a pitch about it. Write something. I'm giving you a little preview of that webinar I'm going to do on Thursday. I'm giving it all away. Do that. It's a great challenge. Take a documentary, find one, write a musical about it. It's what we used to do. I was a member of the BMI Librettist Workshop, and that's what we did. We took a movie, we musicalized a scene. It was very educational. I'm riffing a bit. She's back.
I'm so sorry. Sorry. I'm on my husband's computer and it just went restarting. And I was like, what? I didn't push anything. Stop.
This is like
anyway,
the
Mac, I'm so
fool's joke for me or something. Anyway, Kathleen, you were telling us advice for aspiring choreographers. I'm sweating like a pig, by the way. Here, I'm just like ripping.
So SDC Foundation has an observership program. And you have to apply, and then they try to match up young directors and choreographers with other choreographers and directors so you can observe on a project. Because as we all know, you want to be in the room where it happens. So if you can, that's a great way to sort of match up. And also it's great for productions that maybe can't afford to give you a full associate choreographer or full associate director, and it's funded by SDC. So that's definitely something to look into. And then of course, just trying to volunteer your time, because I sort of like I really think choreography is an apprenticeship art. I mean, I got my start. I assisted my brother. He assisted Graziella Danielle. Graziella Danielle assisted Bob Fosse. Bob Fosse was supervised on his first show, which was The Pajama Game by Jerome Robbins. So you feel like, how watching people, and I also feel as a choreographer, watching other directors has been very useful. Because, as an associate choreographer and then as a choreographer myself, I watched Hal Prince and Michael Blakemore and Susan Schulman and Jack O'Brien and Scott Ellis and Jerry Zaks. I watched all these people work, and you sort of see how they run an audition, how they talk to writers, how they talk to designers, how they run a tech, how they give notes. It's just so useful to sort of watch other people doing what they do.
All right, we have another question, which you talked a little bit about this, but I just want you to see this comment as well. Mary, throw Michelle's comment up there on the screen. Where do you get your ideas featured in choreography? Because you are so creative and innovative and inspiration for all wannabe choreographers.
Oh, thank you. Well, I love research. I love to do as much research as possible. So like you're talking about nice work if you can get it, takes place in the 1920s. So I watched as much. There's not a lot of footage from the 1920s, as there's not as much obviously from the 30s and 40s. But I watched a lot of footage, and there was some really sort of old footage of Josephine Baker dancing. And she was sort of so free. And so I used that as inspiration for something. And I sort of feel like I like to do a lot of research, but also, you know, especially when you're doing these period shows, you know, you're creating something. I always say it's sort of the illusion of authenticity. That you sort of do all the research, but then you still have to kind of make it your own, right? And sort of make it feel, you know, feel fun and exciting, and for an audience to watch. I sort of feel like, especially with choreography, I like to figure out how to build a number, because I sort of think sometimes you can kind of choke a show with choreography. If there's too much choreography, it's like having, you know, 10 desserts in a row. You sort of can't can't appreciate it because it's just too much. And also, I think there are times when if everybody, you know, if your full company is out there dancing full out from the get go right till the button, that's also too much. You sort of have to feel. One of the fun things is sort of for me is designing sections. You know, are there going to be different sections? Then how do they build, and how do they connect? And when you earn, how do you earn that moment where everybody's dancing in unison? You know, you want to sort of build to that eventually.
I love that a choreographer, and it just shows how, as a director choreographer, you have to still be objective about your work. You talk about scaling back dance, when a lot of, I think, especially new choreographers, might just be like, I'm just going to fill it with tons of dance. So you have to be very objective about your stuff. I'm sure.
I can't remember who it was. It might have been, maybe it was Moss Hart, who said, you know, don't just do something, stand there. You know, so sometimes it's great just to sort of have a you know, a song or a moment where you know, we're just watching somebody experience something, as opposed to feeling like there always has to be movement, or there always has to be multiple things happening on stage. Sometimes it's great just to watch somebody experience something. I do some classes, some you know, sort of, and master classes about auditioning and that kind of thing. And it's amazing how much, you know, people say, you know what, we want to see a real person going through something real. That's what we want to see. And, you know, I think a lot of times people treat auditions like an Olympic event, where they're trying to sort of, you know, score points and not have any faults, right? And you know, like, oh, that's a 5-point deduction because they didn't sustain that note, or oh, that. And it's like, no. If we like you, we like you. And if you have little foibles along the way, and then that's okay. If we like you, and you seem, you know, compelling to us, that's what we're looking for.
I love it. Great advice for choreographers, for performers, and frankly, just for people. Life is not an Olympic event. Just be yourself. Thank you so much for joining us and for coming back after all that and saving it.
Sorry about that. So sorry.
No worries, no worries. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy, and we will see you soon. I look forward to it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. That was Kathleen Marshall, everybody. I'm so thankful that she came back. Thank God, I really am dripping in sweat. I don't know why, but it was didn't know what was going to happen. Anyway, I am very thankful you all joined us. Some great, I mean, that advice about the reading that I asked was actually for me, because I have a reading coming up in June, and I was like, what if I could only gather half of it? Is it worth it doing without an audience? She gave me a great idea. That's why we're doing this, just so I can get great ideas from really smart people. Tomorrow, a good friend of mine and my partner on the Deaf West Spring Awakening, the artistic director of Deaf West, David DJ Kurz, is going to join us tomorrow night. He's going to talk about what Deaf West is up to. He's going to talk about what he's been doing. He's got some kids too, so we'll ask him the kid question. So tune in for tomorrow night. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. Don't forget about the Actors Fund. Tip, 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 tip. Share, 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 share. Don't forget to stay safe. Don't forget to register for Thursday, how theater makers can make the most of their quarantine. I gave you a little tip. It's about making something, so join us. I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of strategies that I learned, some of it today. I just revised it today because I tuned into a virtual entrepreneurial conference today and listened to like 5 speakers in a row tell me how to get through this and how to build businesses and do all sorts of stuff. I stole some stuff. I'm going to throw it in there at the last minute, drive my PowerPoint designer mad. But make sure you join. Lastly, something to smile about, another nugget from my wife. She finds the good ones. She always makes me smile, so she's given me something to make you smile. This is a guy named Dr. Elvis Francois. He's a spine surgeon at the Mayo Clinic. And let me tell you something. He does not sing like you'd expect a spine surgeon to sing. It's truly something, and it's an inspiration. There he is in his scrubs with another doctor at the keys at a time. He offering some incredible inspiration when he's working his scrubs off. We're so thankful to all those health workers out there who are doing that. But you got to hear this. It's unbelievable, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on Instagram. So go check it out. Mary throws up the comment. That's where we store all the smiles, so you can just binge watch all the smiles. Okay, join me tomorrow. DJ Kurz. That's all I got for tonight. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow. Don't forget the Actors Fund.